Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. It is Monday, October 18th, 2021, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today we're going to talk a bit, kind of pick up where we left off last week after the campaign stuff, dive into another part of the Dungeon Masters Guide, first edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Look at climate and ecology. That'll be fun. Won't it? Well, we'll see. It can be an important part of the game. It doesn't have to be, but like everything else, depending on how much you put into it, you could possibly get more out of it. It's no guarantee, but it can be an interesting aspect, and it can touch on a lot of different facets of the game. Certainly, the climate, the location, where the campaign is taking place can affect a lot of what's going on in the campaign and what can appear in the campaign. So it's important to have some idea of what's going on there. If it's just broad strokes, that's fine. If you want to get into beyond climate into weather and all of that too, and more than just using it as a sort of a flavor occasionally when it seems like it could be fun. I'll have it raining today since they're slogging along a road near some foothills, and it could get muddy, and that would make it slow and make combat difficult. Or they're near a desert and they're running low on water, and and rain is just going to make things easier on the group, and maybe you want things to be kind of difficult under certain circumstances to challenge the player characters and challenge the players. So you want to do that. But that's weather, not necessarily climate, right? Let's have a look a little more closely at that section. Page, I want to say 87. Climate and Ecology. Gary begins. It It is of utmost importance to some dungeon masters to create and design worlds which are absolutely correct according to the laws of the scientific realities of our own universe. These individuals will have to look elsewhere for direction as to how this is to be accomplished, for this is a rule book, not a text on any subject remotely connected to climatology, ecology, or any science, soft or hard. However, for those who desire only an interesting and exciting game, some useful information in the way of advice can be passed along. He goes into climate here, and he sure is right, as I was saying as well. It need not be super important in your game, but here's some potential advice. Climate. Temperature, wind, and rainfall are understood reasonably well by most people. The distance from the sun dictates temperature, with the directness of the sun's rays affecting this also. Cloud cover also is a factor. Heavy clouds trapping heat to cause a greenhouse effect. Elevation is a factor, as the higher mountains have less of an atmosphere blanket. Bodies of water affect temperature, as do warm or cold currents within them. Likewise, air currents affect temperature. Winds are determined by the rotational direction and thermals. Rainfall depends upon winds and available moisture from bodies of water and temperatures as well. All of the foregoing are relevant to our world and should be in a fantasy world, but the various determinants need not follow the physical laws of the Earth. A milieu which offers differing climates is quite desirable because of the variety it affords DM and player alike. The variety of climes allows you to offer the whole gamut of human and monster types to adventurous characters. It also allows you more creativity with civilizations, societies, and cultures. So, what do we take away from that? Well, certainly when they talk about a variety of cultures and societies in a first edition AD&D game as it pertains to your setting or even pre-made settings, uh, there's certainly a lot that is taken from real world cultures and societies with the serial numbers sometimes sloppily filed off, but it helps to have a frame of reference for yourself and for the players so that in game you can speak in a sort of shorthand that allows them to get the full picture in a concise amount of words so that the gameplay can be the predominant time consumer in any of your game sessions. If I use the word red, most times that's good enough, and all the players will see something that I describe as red, maybe in varying degrees of tone or shade, but usually will cover. I can add some adverbs and whatnot. If I describe the ground as wet, if I describe an area as foggy, I might have to give a bit more detail. How far can one see in it? This can be true too with driving rain. It can obscure vision over a distance. So these kinds of things are things you can use to help create some atmosphere in your game, but you don't want to spend 4 hours describing the weather and have your players not come back the next time. How you doing there? Dane Dahl, thanks for popping in. I'll continue now with the ecology section of the DMG. Where are we at here? Ooh, okay. I gotta switch a little bit here to, let's see. I'll tell you what, let's pop that off for a second. Get myself into a different screen so I can make things work a little better for what I'm doing here. There we go. Change that over a little bit. Alright, thanks for your patience on that. Let's have a look at it now. Ecology, as I said, page 87 of the DMG. So many of the monsters are large predators that it is difficult to justify their existence in proximity to one another. Of course, in dungeon settings, it is possible to have some in stasis or magically kept alive without hunger. But what of the wilderness? Then, too, how do the human and humanoid populations support themselves? The bottom of the food chain is vegetation, cultivated grain with respect to people and their ilk. Large populations in relatively small land areas must be supported by lavish vegetation. Herd animals prospering upon this growth will support a fair number of predators. Consider also the tails of many of the most fantastic and fearsome beasts. What do dragons eat? Humans, of course. Maidens in particular, says Gary. And that, of course, he's referring to folklore. Dragons slay a lot, he says, but they do not seem to eat all that much. Ogres and giants enjoy livestock and people too, but at least the more intelligent sort raise their own cattle so as to guarantee a full kettle. Absolutely, first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons had a lot of ins and outs. In this DMG, there's just a treasure trove of information. I'll continue with this ecology section. Gary says, when you develop your world, leave plenty of area for cultivation, even more for wildlife. Let me stop myself there. You know, he mentioned that intelligent sort of beings, ogres and whatnot, will have their own herds. I think we can harken back to the Cyclops in the Odyssey, going as far back as that. He kept large sheep, a herd of large sheep himself. And I think there's an idea that large creatures who require a lot of eating. Now, maybe there are tribes of ogres way up in the mountains that are not impressed by their ogre kindred down in the valley who herd sheep and find that less of an ogreish thing to do. But the ogres that do herd the sheep, or herd cattle even, certainly enjoy regular meals when they do so. What about an adventurer or an adventure where the player characters have to act as rustlers of ogre cattle to feed a village that is starving? Perhaps that is something to consider as a plot hook in one of your games. Anyway, sorry for the digression. I'll continue. When you develop your world, leave plenty of area for cultivation, even more for wildlife. Indicate the general sorts of creatures inhabiting an area using logic with regard to natural balance. This is not to say that you must be textbook perfect. It is merely a cautionary word to remind you not to put in too many large carnivores without any visible means of support. Some participants in your campaign might question the ecology, particularly if it does not favor their favorite player characters. You must be prepared to justify it. Here are some suggestions. Good morning, Rick. Thanks for popping in. You coming out to draft tonight? You haven't had a whole lot of luck on Mondays the last couple of weeks. Well, we've had a few people out. Gary continues with his suggestions about how to organize your ecology of your setting. He says certain vegetation grows very rapidly in the world. Roots or tubers, a grass-like plant or grain. One or more of such crops support many rabbits or herd animals, or wild pigs, or people, or whatever you like. The vegetation springs up due to a nutrient in the soil, possibly some element unknown in the mundane world, and possibly due to the radiation of the sun as well. See the slight tinge of color, which is noticeably different when compared to Sol, that is to say, Earth's sun. A species or two of herbivores, which grow rapidly, breed prolifically, and need but scant nutriment, is also suggested. With these artifices and a bit of care in placing monsters around the wilderness, you will probably satisfy all but the most exacting of players, and that one probably should not be playing fantasy games anyway. Excuse me. He continues, dungeons likewise must be balanced and justified, or else wildly improbable and caused by some supernatural entity which keeps the whole thing running, or at least has it set up to run until another stops it. In any event, do not allow either the demands of realism, quote unquote, he says, or impossible make-believe to spoil your milieu. Climate and ecology are simply reminders to use a bit of care. So that's what he has to say on the subject. I think next time we'll pick up here with typical inhabitants and go into these various details here. Looks kind of interesting, and certainly it'll be a nice follow-up since it follows up things in the DMG. No draft tonight. All right, Rick. You got a lot of work on the house done this weekend, I hope. I hope you're not working yourself too hard. You certainly are anxious, I'm sure, to get things set right so you can just be comfortable and relax a bit, but don't work yourself into a hospital bed or anything ridiculous. Got a new shirt. Check it out. It's a Wizards of the Coast shirt. It's a cool beholder. I kind of like it. Anyway, I picked this up, ordered this last week online along with a couple of Magic the Gathering shirts, which I got as well. I noticed I've got plenty of convention shirts and a few gamer shirts that are more D&D oriented or even war games oriented, but didn't have anything particularly set up for Magic, so I got the old school ones, with just the Magic the Gathering early logo on it. So you'll see them when I get a chance to wear them at the game store or out to play some EDH at Papa's or something along those lines. So Rick should keep in mind that Saturday the 30th, Alex wants to draft his cube at the store, probably around 6. So high-powered stuff. I'm sure he's going to have a fair number of things in prize support available for people from one of his pals at one of the big companies. I don't think there's going to be a fee for this one since it's his cube, and it'll just be for fun and open to anyone. So Rick, give a couple people a call and see about coming out on the 30th to do this high-powered draft. There'll be some card play in the afternoon, I'm sure. There'll be some people at the store that don't want to draft that'll be playing EDH. All of that on Saturday the 30th. It'll be our lead up to Halloween, of course. But it's almost a couple of weeks away. Speaking of Magic, I'll just mention here that I believe it is November 19th that Innistrad Crimson Vow drops, which means pre-release weekend starts on Friday the 12th. Keep that in mind. Make sure you make it in on Friday this week to the store if you like drafting Magic. Jesse is going to be taking a break to help out his family up north for a little while. He'll be around. He'll be in and out of town a little bit, but not steady enough that he can continue doing the Friday work at the store. Although chances are he'll be back in town. Sure, trick-or-treating on the 30th. Absolutely. I get that. But we'll see Jesse again in the springtime. I have no doubt. And we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I know it's not a super long show today, but we're 20 minutes in. I think we're going to call it here and pick up with the next section of Typical Inhabitants a week from today. That'll be the 25th. At least that's the plan. So I want to thank everybody who popped in and checked out the stream chat here on Twitch. I will also say it's Good little section, Climate and Ecology. Don't forget, Monday, 10 a.m. Central. The show streams live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central and is then archived on YouTube. If you catch up with us here on Twitch, then please, by all means, subscribe to the channel. Follow it, at least. And do chime in on the stream chat, because it's always good to let us know who's around. If you have any questions about what's being presented, please do feel free to ask them. I keep an eye on it, and I try to answer those questions when they come up. If you are catching up with this on YouTube, by all means, subscribe to the channel there. Click on the little bell so you get update notices when we upload new videos. Feel free to give us a thumbs up on any videos you watch and enjoy, and feel free to make comments. If you have some constructive criticism, want to ask a question about what's going on, or just have some insights yourself into some of the subject matter being discussed on the show, it's all very much appreciated. So I do once again want to give a big thanks to everybody for watching. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.